Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time you're listening into. This is B&B Hockey Talk. I'm your host or co-host for today, Aaron Bloxall, with my other co-host, Mr. Matthew Balzer. We're here to talk about our daily hockey talk. Despite World Cup of Soccer going on today, that is not the right channel to be watching because we don't give a care. This is about hockey. Today is July the 6th, Friday. Getting into a weekend, and there's a little bit of hockey to finally talk about today and yesterday. So today we're going to be touching on Alex Burrows' retirement, along with the Canucks Prospects Summer Showdown and some of the key signings that happened overnight. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my co-host, Mr. Matthew Balzer. Let's talk about Mr. Alex Burrows retiring today.
Yeah, it's a sad day to see Alex go into retirement. One of my favorite players as a Canuck fan, and probably scoring the biggest goal in Canuck history. I still get chills whenever they play it on the radio, slaying the dragon, scoring the overtime.
You think it's bigger than the Pavel Bure Game 7 in '94? Or is that one before your time?
Yeah, that one's before my time. Like I know it's a big goal in Canuck history, but for me, just for my generation, that goal is it's until the Canucks win the Stanley Cup, that goal will be number one by far. But yeah, Burrows is just being that type of player, getting guys under guys' skin, and being that winger for the Sedins, where people thought they needed a right-hand shot, going through all these guys like Steve Bernier, Taylor Pyatt, etc.
He was a lefty though.
Oh yeah. But yeah, he exemplified tongue twister there. The top class for the organization. Another one of my favorite memories is scoring the overtime goal in Game 2 against Boston, 11 seconds in.
The wraparound goal.
Yeah, and another underrated moment was, I believe, in Alain Vigneault's second year as coach. I think the Canucks had that 12-game losing streak or something like that, and Burrows ended it with a breakaway goal, I think, against Carolina. But those are some of my favorite memories.
Yeah, definitely. He slayed the dragon is right up there. It's a great moment. I mean, you remember if you watch that video on YouTube, you see all the Canucks jumping around, and Corey Schneider's arms are up, and Areskovich and the Sedins, and everyone's hugging and just piling on to Burrows after he scored it. But for me, I know I heard former Canucks coach Mark Crawford talking about Burrows a little bit today, and what he actually meant to the Sedins' development. I remember going to a few games live when Burrows was still a rookie. He was on a line with Todd Bertuzzi and I think Artem Chabarov, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember Bertuzzi having a 4-goal game that night. And it was just because of the tenacity of Chabarov and Burrows. But Crawford was talking about how Burrows just really brought the work ethic and showed the Sedins that even though, they weren't the biggest guys on the ice, they could still be super effective just through hard work and tenacity. That goal you mentioned in the losing streak, I remember it quite vividly because there's a lot of talks about Alain Vigneault and how his job was on the line. And I know it was at least a 10-game losing streak. And I believe you're right, it was Carolina. He got a breakaway, and he scored the overtime goal to win it. And he turned around and he tried to break his stick on his knee. Like the losing streak was over. It was broken. And they went on to have a winning streak after that, and it kind of kept Vigneault's job intact. And it was pre-2011 playoff run. It would have been a lot different, I'm sure, in 2011 if Vigneault wasn't there as the coach. But Burrows, I mean, I got final stats here. In 913 career games, he's got 205 goals, 204 assists. He did everything. He's a goal scorer and a playmaker, and just overall hard work. I mean, you think about his background coming up through the ranks from playing ball hockey to making an East Coast Hockey League team, grinding it out on the bus rides down there, playing in the minors, eventually making it to an AHL team, and then finally getting a two-way NHL contract and making his way up on the Canucks. He really brought a lot of hard work with him because of everything he had to go through to accomplish his goals and dreams. So that's what I probably remember the most about him. So you heard today, where's he planning on going from here?
He's signed a deal with the Laval Rocket, which is the Montreal Canadiens farm team. He'll be assistant coach for them this coming year, and it's knowing if you know Burrows and some of his backstory. He was a big thing with the Sedins and coming up with like solutions about how to work around the team's top shutdown pair or on the power play penalty kill, finding solutions and stuff. So I'm not surprised that he joined a coaching staff right away. Just also to bounce off on the Sedins, I think it was Daniel who was asked if Alex Burrows was the best winger that played with them, and if he didn't play with them, if they would have had their career years the way they did, and without hesitation, he said yes. It's just like if it wasn't for Burrows, it's the having those Hart Trophy and seasons, it wouldn't happen without him.
A couple other fond memories I have of Alex Burrows was he was really tight with young rookie at the time, Luc Bourdon, before he passed away. In one of his goal-scoring celebrations, people will remember, where he used to do the arrow, pretend to pull the arrow out and use his hockey stick, right? That was a Luc Bourdon goal-scoring celebration, and he used to do it in memory of Luc. And you could see a lot of that, especially in the late 2000s, when he'd score a big goal, he always went to that celebration. One of the other things, too, was right at the end of last season, when the Sedins had that magical game in Vancouver when they scored in overtime against, I believe it was Arizona. And Burrows said he was on the road in Pittsburgh getting ready to play the next day for Ottawa's final regular season game. And he said he ended up staying up all night because of the game obviously being a time difference. So, game went to overtime. It's like 1 a.m. there. And he said he continued to watch it. And he said when Daniel Sedin scored, all he did was smile because he's like, that's exactly the way they would want to go out. And he's just a classy guy. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the Canucks organization one day in one of the head office or coaching role, just because he brings a lot of leadership skills and other, just hard work and desire he'll bring to that organization. So anything else you want to touch on that, or do you want to move on now to the next game?
Just one last thing. I think it would be cool when the Canucks eventually do retire the Sedin's jersey number. If in that same year that they could put him in the Canucks Ring of Honor, I think he'd be a perfect fit in there. Well,
he'll definitely be at that ceremony when that day comes for the Sedins, because he was a big part of their success through the late 2000s and 2011, 12, 13. And of course, the Canucks got a great prospect for him, which is starting to look more and more like a great trade. Getting, I almost called him Alf Dahlin, the dad. But Jonathan Dahlin, of course, we got in Alex Burrows trade when we went to Ottawa a couple seasons ago. So let's talk about the Canucks had their prospects game last night. They call it the Summer Showdown. I know a lot of them got the crap beat out of them today by doing the grouse grind as the last team working day that they got to be introduced to Vancouver. It's a fun. The grouse grind, of course, is fun, but it's pretty hard work. It's almost 3 kilometers straight up a mountain. So let's talk about some of the players that obviously we were expecting to stand out, and maybe some of the players that you were really surprised at that stood out for different reasons for you.
All right. So first off, I think you had brought him up as your guy to watch. Petrus Palmu was definitely, I think, the best player on the ice from start to finish. He had a goal, and he had a couple slick passes, and one was setting up Tyler Madden. It was just a no look backhand pass behind the net, right to the slot, right on the stick for a one timer. And even earlier in that, he had some no look spin move right to Madden to set up a scoring chance. Another guy that I was impressed with was Cole Lind. Again, he started off a little slowly, but as the game went on, he started to get some dangles, and he had a nice goal on 3-on-3, which is a goal going off his off wing and scoring just inside the glove side.
That was definitely a sick professional shot.
Couple guys that stood out to me or that surprised me was let's see here, Jared Lukovic. Which is a heck of a last name. Talk about an old name.
Lukosavicius.
Yeah. He had a couple. Both of his goals were highlight reel. And his first one got it on a turnover and brought it right to the net, deep backhand upstairs. And the second goal was even more sicker. He came in and toe dragged around the defenseman and scored. I think him and Tyler Soy, who I brought up yesterday, I really liked his game, him moving the puck around. And the last guy would be that I brought up earlier, Tyler Madden. There wasn't a whole lot of talk going on him leading into this, but I was actually really impressed with how he distributed the puck, getting out some offensive chances.
Yes. Well, I don't think there's a lot of talk on him because he's planning on potentially staying in the NCAA for a few years. But, of course, his dad, smiling from ear to ear when he got drafted, made the comment because he was never drafted, but his son's now drafted. So they said, so your son has the upper edge now, right? He goes, oh, he's got 3 Stanley Cups to go until he ties me, right? But for me, I mean, the obvious players stood out. I'll touch on some of them. Obviously, Petrus Palmu. I really liked Quinn Hughes. We talked about this actually before we went on air today. Is Quinn Hughes and Jet Wu were mic'd up, and it was kind of fun to listen to them trash talk a little bit. Every time Quinn Hughes would pick up the puck, you'd hear Jet Wu. He's like, "Come on, Quinn, show me what you got. Come on, bring it." And they were encouraging each other and challenging each other at the same time, which is fun to see. But I know they both made several plays that you could hear the crowd oohing and awing about. I really thought the white team was a lot more stacked than the blue team. And Michael DiPietro definitely got tested. He made some incredible saves. And for the most part, I believe it was the other goalie that let in most of the goals. He did let in a couple, but for the white team, Cole Lind, Tyler Madden, Jack Rathbone, and Petrus Palmu, they all stood out to me. But some of the unknown names that you talked about, like Lukosavicius, he really stood out. I mean, he had the 2 goals that you talked about. He had the shootout goal. But one of the guys that had 2 goals for the white team that stood out to me was Tanner McMaster, not to be confused with the other McMaster, as there's a couple on either. There's one on either team yesterday. But Tanner McMaster scored a couple of really nice in-tight dangle goals, both on DiPietro, I believe. And then for me, the other 2 people that stood out, Adam Rockwood scored a really nice breakaway goal. And the Vancouver Giants' very own defenseman Dylan Plouffe. I thought he looked really strong out there in distributing the puck and standing his ground. So I know throughout the game they went first period it was 5-on-5, then it was 4-on-4, then it was 3-on-3. That being because there was almost as many defensemen per team than forwards. But overall, entertaining. Season ticket holders got a little sneak peek at some of the prospects coming up. But I found it really interesting today with Jason Bosford saying, hey, they need to make a trade to somehow keep Quinn Hughes and get him signed, get him in the lineup this year. Because, they're saying even though he was sick this week and just the way he looks, he's more than likely going to be better than the majority of the defensemen that we already have. What are your thoughts on that, and maybe some of your other thoughts from the game? Because I know you were able to watch most of it last night.
Yeah. Hughes, I think, would be the second best offensive defenseman, at least to start the season, with Edler being there. Even though I think Hughes has a higher ceiling, Hughes would be my second pick if you can get him paired with Chris Tanev.
Yes.
Do not pair him with Erica Branson. Just don't. He ruined Ben Hutton last year. It's just not worth it. If you could have a top four of Edler, Stetcher, Hughes, and Tanev, I'd be very happy with that.
Stetcher is potentially one of the deep pairings that he could be with as well. I mean, they'd be very undersized, but probably one of the faster deep pairings in the league.
Mm-hmm. I think, to touch on the goaltenders, I'll talk about the two Canuck drafted. Yeah, DiPietro, he was really solid. I think he got a little scrambly at times, which got him out of position. Though it was nice to see that he never gave up on the puck. I think he had a nice save where he was sprawling out on his side, and then the puck got wrapped around and passed to the other side. He was able to get across to make a nice save. And the other guy, the goalie, Matthew Thiessen, who was the 7th round pick in this year's draft. I really liked his game. He was really solid. He was always in position. Just let the puck come to him, which I really liked. And another defenseman that they invited, Josh Tevis. I think he was paired with Quinn Hughes for the most part during the game. I really liked his game. He was jumping up, creating scoring chances, moving the puck really well. But yeah, those would be my last guys that I was impressed with.
Yeah, overall, I mean, it is what it is. It's just a sneak preview. Some of the guys weren't going, obviously, as hard as they will. I'm really looking forward to the prospects camp where they play all, the other Western Canadian teams' prospects in Penticton, usually. I believe that's where it is again this year. But I'm really looking forward to that again to see how well they do because, we talked about this a couple episodes ago, how deep their prospect pool is and how good Utica is going to be this year based on the fact that there's not as many spots up on the big team. It'd be really interesting to see who steps up, though, for that camp and who's going to bring it and play the professional style game, right? And who's ready to make the jump. And I know only time will tell. So why don't we talk a little bit about some of the free agent signings today or I guess re-signings as well for some of them.
So the big signing today is more of a minor deal. The Toronto Maple Leafs signed Tyler Ennis. He was bought out by the Minnesota Wild this offseason. His career has gone really downhill, which sucks because it's mainly because of concussions, injuries. Because earlier in his career, he looked like he was going to be a pretty highly offensive guy. He had some 20 goal, 40, 50 point seasons.
Yeah.
But with the concussions, his career has slowly gone downhill. But I like this deal. It's only like Duclair yesterday, only $650K deal. Low risk, high reward if he does work out. I'm guessing he'd be playing on that third line. And the other two signings, Edmonton re-signed Ryan Strome to a 2-year deal with $3.1 million cap hit.
For Jordan Eberle, they pretty much have to sign him now, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of an overpayment for what he had. He only had 13 goals and 34 points for entire season, and that was still good for fourth on the team in points, which if you're the Oilers, you didn't have much outside of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, ouch.
So and especially with expectations, people were hoping that he would have been able to find some chemistry with McDavid or Draisaitl, but he ended up looking more into that third line center role. And then the last guy that I'll touch on is Alex Petrovic with signing a 1-year deal with Florida. I think the big tough defenseman, but I think the big thing here is that this is one of the defensemen Florida protected in the expansion draft. Thinking as Dale Talon thought, defense wins championships, but that's not the case. When you lose guys like Jonathan Marchessault and trade Riley Smith, and you see how those guys did in Vegas this year, they could have held on to some of those guys.
I'm sure Vegas is very grateful. One other signing as well that happened, I think, late yesterday was Trevor Van Riemsdyk from Carolina, just adding more depth to that defense that they've already got going on there. And when I saw Van Riemsdyk sign in Carolina, the first thing, of course, that went through my head is, didn't he already sign in Philadelphia? It's funny when you see that. I had to do a double take and realize it was the defenseman that had been playing in Chicago. So. Yeah, so I guess just to follow up and to end today's session, let's touch on the Erik Karlsson update, and also touch on if you foresee the Canadiens still moving Max Pacioretty prior to the season start.
Yeah, so for Erik Karlsson, it's still a wait and see sort of thing. I did see John Shannon tweet with Sportsnet that even though it looks like Tampa, don't rule out Dallas yet still. Though I still think it's a long shot. I think another name that I would see going to Ottawa in the Tampa trade is Mikhail Sergachev. I think that would be a guy that Ottawa would want to replace Karlsson, especially on the left side where you already have Hedman and McDonough. You already have Sergachev on that third pairing, and especially if you bring in Karlsson, then you got Hedman and Karlsson logging all those power play minutes. So you'd have to give them up, I think, for Karlsson. That's
a little bit of a steep price if there's a package and he's involved, but I mean, you get one of the best defensemen in the NHL. I see a lot of potential in Sergachev, and I know Tampa will probably do everything they can to hold on to him, especially since he's still an entry-level contract. Max Pacioretty. So Shea Weber goes down till at least Christmas time. Do you see them trading him and maybe upgrading their defense prior to the season starting?
Yeah, I think Pacioretty, it's such an interesting situation because I don't think he wants to leave. I think he does want to stay, but I think at the draft there was a trade lined up, I believe to either San Jose or LA. I forget which two off the top of my head. That was lined up, but nothing ended up going through either. I think it ended up going for a contract extension that he wanted, but nothing turned out there. But yeah, I think Pacioretty. It would be. I'm not sure if they would go for a defenseman. I think Montreal would be looking for a centerman. I think just because this all the things trying to go with Drouin as a centerman, and I think they would want a legit like top six center back for him. Those are tough to find.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they have Kotkaniemi start with the team because he's the big centerman that they wanted at the draft. They thought he was the most NHL ready right away to fill that hole, and it gives them a chance to put Drouin on the wing since they've re-signed Plekanec and they've got Max Domi as well up the middle. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do there. I mean, Pacioretty would be a big hole to fill up front. I mean, they've got a big hole to fill in on the defense already. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do over the next couple months before the season starts. So if you like today's episode, like it, share it, comment on it. Comment on who your favorite Canuck was to watch at the Summer Showdown, and let us know who you're keeping an eye on, whether that's Quinn Hughes or Petrus Palmu or Cole Lynn. Write it in the comments. Let us know who you're tracking. We really appreciate the hundreds of viewers that we've had over these last few episodes. We're about to head into the weekend. We'll be back here Monday again. I'm Aaron Bloxel. This is my co-host, Mr. Matthew Balzer, and this is B&B Hockey Talk. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next week.